Okay, here we go. Complete rebuild of TRX 2.5. Whoa. Okay. Sorry, having to get everything with the camera set up just right. So first, gonna have to remove the clutch bell and pinions. One of the few TRX vehicles that I see that actually uses a screw instead of other parts. Remember where your shims go. I'm honestly going to leave everything exactly as it is and not even touch it, and place this off to the side. Next, take the clutch off, and this one's going to get cleaned up a little better. I may have to walk away for, well no, I can use towel. I have some denatured alcohol right here, and that's what I'll be using to clean everything. So now we need the right socket to take off the flywheel nut. There we go. Yeah, I'm gonna need some slip joints with this. Well, maybe these might work, I don't know. Nope, slip joints. There's actually a special tool that you can put on this that uses these two pins, but I don't trust those tools because you're putting all that torque on these two pins. So that's loose, and I'm using a rag, and I'll replace them as I'm doing things. So all the other parts are back here: screws, carb. I'll also be rebuilding the carb, which is this one. This one is mine, I believe. Yep. So, okay, like usual, knock the flywheel off. Damn. Flywheel's off. And now we got to get the sleeve out. Okay, now with the sleeve, I'm going to have to take this right here. It's a piece of plastic. It may look goofy, but it gives me light in dark spots when I'm working on small areas. But I gotta get the sleeve out. Need a small hammer. I may have to heat up the case, I don't know yet. It's coming. There it goes. This is the part I was dreading the most, but it came out relatively simple. So now sleeve's coming out. So this can go away. Flathead, flathead, flathead. One. Sorry, I'm having enough runs through my tools to find the right ones. There we go. And now, just pull the sleeve out. Just like that. Sleeves out. Put in denatured alcohol. Oh Lord. I'm going to have to rebuild this down to the piston. Piston in. And now I'm being very careful. Actually, I need something to put between that that's softer than metal. If you're asking questions, I'm sorry I can't see them. The camera's facing, the screen's facing away from me. Right now I'm just trying to get the crankshaft out. Lovely. The crankshaft is not wanting to budge. Let's put this back on for 1 second. This is what happens when you leave fuel in the engine. Sometimes they can be fixed, sometimes they can't. Hopefully I can get it, but I'm not going to promise anything. I can just try my best. Because that, whoopsie, that sleeve, that crankshaft is not wanting to come out. Okay, it's still spinning over. I got a feeling it's just gummed up on the bearings. So, what I'm going to have to do is I'll have to sort of go off camera. It'll be not far. But I'm going to remove all these screws. All the screws can't be seen. They're all back here. But right now that denatured alcohol is eating away at that old. So now we got to get the crankshaft out. Wow. That one is in there good. Okay. I'm trying to think what I can use that's decently thick. That when I hit the crankshaft, I'm not doing metal to metal. Wow. This might work. We'll see. Well, if all those fills, try a bigger hammer. If everything fails, I have another 2.5. So I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do in this type of problem. Wow, this is really in there good. There it comes. Got a hole in the floor. There's your crankshaft. Aha, that's what. Gotta get this bearing off now. First, let's clean this up. Okay, so now the crankshaft's out, but I gotta get that bearing out. Glad I got it out, but now I gotta get the bearing off. That bearing is stuck on there. First, let's try to clean that bearing up some. Okay, bearing's freed up now. And you can hear the bearing spinning freely now. But I have to get it off the crankshaft in order to fully rebuild it. Wow, there's a lot of... Wow. Okay, now I gotta think of something that I can get between there and such a tight spot. Oh, come on, really? Damn it. Dremel. I'm not taking the Dremel to any internal parts. I just have to clean up one of my tools a little bit. It's Craftsman, so Broke one of my own tools in the process. Great. See the different. Okay, there we go. Sort of. Okay, now I've got to figure out some way to get this bearing off. There it comes. This is the bearing I have to rebuild. That's why it's so important that I have to get it off. And don't worry about my tool, it's craftsman. Even if I break it purposely, they still have to replace it. Okay, there's the bearing. Put that in there, put that in there. How bad is this front bearing? Not that bad. Well, now I'm going to use this and clean up everything. The denatured alcohol will work somewhat like nitro. Nitro is 20 to 30. Airplanes use 5% nitro. But there's a lot of dirt in this motor too, so it's going to go in there. And don't worry, I'm going to get a lot of oil in here. I'm going to clean everything up. I'm going to rebuild the piston. Rebuild the rear bearing. Okay, so now the next part will be rebuilding this bearing because it is so dirty. Get a new rag. And now we wipe out the inside of the motor. Very well. By the time I'm done with it, this motor will look almost like a brand new motor. Inside and out. Not much I can do about the front bearing without completely taking it out. Ah, hell, might as well. Doing everything else. If I can get the bearing out. The bearing is very reluctant to come out. I need to put it sort of up on that work right there. And there's your front bearing. Put it in there. And here's your block. Nothing in this block now. So now we get to rebuilding. Well, first we gotta clean. So this bearing right here, I'll go through all the steps on how to rebuild it. You're gonna need some grease. Not at the moment. I'll move this off to the side and let those parts continue to soak. The main bearing is going to be the hardest part. Not really hard, but just time consuming. Okay, now we take out the race. I mean not the race. That ain't gonna work. This should work. And in just a second, you're going to see every one of these ball bearings fall out. And at that point, I can clean everything up very well. A lot of people told me to just spray a carb cleaner or stuff down in this. That's not how I clean stuff. I go above and beyond. Now I need some steel wool. Nothing heavy, just some triple aught steel wool. And now we can bring this back over here, and we take this, we get it wet, and we just scrub the parts clean. That's clean. Okay. Now that needs to go somewhere where I don't have to worry about it. I'll put that right there. Now I need to clean the bearings individually. First I need to get this stuff out of here. Everything's getting clean. I still have to rebuild this. So give me 1 second to dump out this old and come back and put some new in. Okay, back. Had some new denatured alcohol. You don't want to really go any stronger than denatured alcohol, because with acetone and stuff you're going to start damaging seals, stuff like that, and you don't want to do that because the motor will never run right again. I'll go ahead and tell you, I'm not going to get the motor running today. I'm just rebuilding it. I'm going to lube it up with some after run oil. Be very careful if you try to do this. The only reason I know how to do this is I used to skateboard, and I used to always completely rebuild my bearings. So right now I'm cleaning all the balls. That triple hot steel wool will actually come in handy a little right now. Make sure they're all still there. 5, 7, 9, 11, 12. There's supposed to be 12 bearings. So now you take all those little bearings back out. I can't do this with the front because the front, the spacer for the balls for the bearings are separated by metal, and I can't take out that cage without damaging the bearing and not being able to put it back together correctly. So now we put this off to the side. I'll let the piston continue soaking. And now we get to putting the bearing back together. Get some grease, lay it down, because the way you put the bearings in, gravity is going to try to pull them back out. So now one by one, you put the balls back in, press them into place. Sorry I'm being quiet, but this takes concentration. the bearings touching each other. Then we can put a center race back in. And of course it's going to fight me. It's a little hard to see the bearings. Gotta take the center race back out, do it again. It's not as easy as it looks. Let me go at it again. Okay, finally. Now we start spacing out the balls. So it doesn't want to come apart. And once we get that done, we clean up the cage. First we got to get all this grease out. The grease holds the bearings in place. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Four, 6, 8, 10, 12 bearings. So now we put it back in the denatured alcohol. The denatured alcohol will get rid of the grease that I used to get all the bearings back in. piston out of here, so none of that grease is getting on it. Now, honestly, if you have never done this before, don't try it, because it is not easy. It is very frustrating. If you have never rebuilt a bearing from start to finish, taking the balls out, don't. Unless you have extra bearings. See? That right there will happen. So now I have to start all over. That's why this time, make sure all the bearings are still here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, yep. 11, 12. So now we just put grease back in place. Bearings. I use a little less grease this time, just enough to hold them in place. This is not the fun part. Damn it. There we go. Not as much grease this time. Space these damn balls out so it doesn't come on into two pieces again. So that's 4, 12 balls. Okay, now clean the cage. Okay. Now space every one of the balls out so we can put the cage back in place. After this, everything is just downhill except for rebuilding the piston and cleaning it up. This is why you always use after run oil, not WD-40, if you're going to have a vehicle sit for a year. Because this is what you will have to go through. And as you can see, it is not fun. I mean, it's fun to me, but someone who doesn't know what they're doing, it could be downright aggravating. So now we take the race, put it onto the balls, and while you're doing this, you're going to have to space the balls out correctly. See, Casey, I told you this was time consuming. One race back in place. Now we clean it up. Hold half of the bearing into the water and the other half out, and spin it to get that grease out. You got to make sure you clean it well because you don't want grease getting into this motor. And in just 1 second, we're going to lube up that sleeve to protect it. Okay, now this can go back in the block. With these, you always have the race where it goes on towards the front of the block so it can't come out. And you use a socket to punch it back in. And I'm going to need a 3/8. Too big. Too big. A little too small. Perfect. So now we just tap that piston back into that bearing back into place. Gently. Okay, now we can take the crankshaft, put it in, just to make sure everything's in place correctly. Oh, nope, no. First, take this steel wool again and clean up where this thing was so damn gummy. Like so. That seal was gone. And look at there. Oh crap. spins freely. So now we can take the front bearing, take some after run oil, put a drop or two in that front bearing, make sure she's nice and lubed, and then we put everything back together. It's back in. Dry fit the crankshaft again. Oh my god, it spins. Okay, now piston. There's a very small little clip. With this, I'm going to need a pair of needle nose pliers. Actually, I prefer flat head. And just very carefully take this clip out. There's a tiny little clip that, unless you're here, you can't see it. It is very, very small. And that holds in the wrist pin. Okay, now press out the wrist pin. Oh, wrong way. Press out the wrist pin. There's your connecting rod. There's your wrist pin, and there's your piston. Now with this, I'm just going to put everything in here real quick. I'm not going to use steel wool on this because it has brass bushings. This one, well, the top doesn't. But I'm just going to soak it real quick, make sure everything gets cleaned very well. And then put it back together that quick. And now at this point, put this tiny little clip back in. Be very careful, because if you lose this, you are done with. Because the wrist pin won't be held in place. And honestly, I'm going to move this, and I'm going to do this right here, so I'm closer to myself. what I was afraid of. And now that teeny tiny clip is back in, and so now we reassemble. Oil up the I like to use after run oil when I'm assembling because it's the oil that will be sitting in it anyway. And remember, when you're pushing this back down into place, you have that pin that positions the... Oh, you idiot. Of course. Got to put the piston in first. Piston. Okay, a little bit of after run oil on the crank pin. Did I seriously put you in the wrong way? Now I know you're in the right way. And there you go. Let's put the... It's actually quite clean. The piston top. I'll add a little bit of after run oil down here. Rub it around. Put that down in place. That still has good compression. I can tell just by the pinch. Collet, flywheel, flywheel nut. flywheel. Now we can put the head back on and see what actual kind of, well, first back plate. Make sure these cuts right here and here, oh yeah, I forgot the back plate's bad too. Back plate's really gunky too. This is quite a long video, but this is quite a large job because you're having to rebuild the bearings, rebuild the piston, and the hardest part, as you saw, was the bearings by far. Okay, I'm going to temporarily take this orange seal off because I don't want to get it in the Okay, now put that back through. No more gunk. Clean it up the rest of the way. Okay, that's that. Dry everything off. Put the seal back on. Motor right here. First, actually, I'm going to lubricate some things. Make sure those cutouts on the back plate are facing the right direction. And now assembly time. Now I can move all this stuff. I'll just use this one. Back plate, bolts. I'll be replacing the motor on the Easy Start. I don't use Easy Starts. I use pull starts. Less weight, better balance. But now, everything's turning over great. Put the head back on. Can't find my other T-wrench. I know it's down there somewhere, but can't find it at the moment. And this is what I will do if anybody sends me a motor and it has been sitting and it is all gummed up, even if for some reason it won't turn over, I will completely pull bearings. I will pull everything and rebuild everything by hand. So I will know, not that someone told me that it's okay, and that's why I did this video, so I can show I rebuilt everything except the front bearing by hand. I didn't put some liquid in there and hope that it would get rid of everything. I removed everything by hand. So now we can bolt it on and we can actually see what kind of compression we got here. And like I said before, with head bolts you ain't gotta go nuts. I would honestly say you will need a new sleeve and piston because the compression is not amazing. You gotta realize this is probably about a 10-year-old car, but I'm still gonna rebuild the carburetor. I've done videos on how to do those, so I gotta rebuild this. But there's your motor. Good as new, except sleeve and piston. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.